Hello friends. So today we're going to talk about sad girl things. I am a sad actually no, I'm pretty happy today. I'm feeling good. It's nice out. I'm on campus right now and the trees look good, the green look good. I look good. But today I want to talk about sadness. Your girl be sad. I want to talk about sadness and things that be making me sad. I think that for a long time I didn't process sadness. I would kind of avoid my sadness through work or through doing. I felt like sitting still was hard for me because I was sad. But after the pandemic happened though, I felt that I had to adjust myself real quick. I felt that I was allowed to feel my sadness. It wasn't, and in the feeling of my sadness, I wasn't comfortable. Like, I was very uncomfortable. The pandemic forced me to stop. The Rona panoramic forced me to stop and pause, and that was really hard for me because it was just difficult, because I felt like I try to avoid my sadness, or I try to feel the space kind of that the sadness has created in my body, in my soul, with things like people, material things, achievements, external validation. Like, I would seek to do a lot of grandiose things to get external validation. Before we even really talk about sadness, let's go back. Let's go rewind. Let's rewind to where it started from, where it comes from. I don't think I was ever naturally sad. The whole time I wasn't recording. Anywho, recording in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action. Okay, so before my camera disrespectfully died, and before I was talking it away thinking that I was actually talking to the camera, but I was actually not. I wanted to go back to where everything kind of, sorry, just making sure about it. Okay, so I would like to go back to where the sadness kind of began. And if you've been watching me for a long time, I was abused when I was around 5 years old, and it was by somebody that I knew. Like, it was like a family friend. I don't remember the person now, but back then I could have pointed them out. And I feel like that's where my sadness began, because I felt like nobody was looking after me. I didn't feel safe. I was in a vulnerable place. I was very happy that day. Actually, I was in my natural state. I'm very happy. I'm a very sociable person. I'm very friendly, outspoken. I like to talk. I like to make jokes, make people laugh. I like to compliment people. I like to ask people a lot of questions. And I just was so, as a child, I was so curious. I used to like look for little bugs in my surroundings, to it kind of like look at them and wonder, like, wow, I wonder what's going on with this bug, and like how its day is going. Like, that was kind of how I was as a kid. I was very curious about the world, and everything kind of just fascinated me. And I felt like when I was abused, I felt like doing that wasn't safe, because I was in a vulnerable position. I was playing, I was happy, I was relaxed, and something traumatic happened to me. So that's where the sadness began. And you know, when it happened, a lot of things arose for me that shouldn't have arisen for a child. Like, a lot of, mainly, I'm gonna just say it because a lot of sexual feelings. Imagine like not having any idea of sexuality, and then you're 5 years old and you feel aroused and scared and afraid, and you don't know how to deal with those feelings. And then you kind of go on navigating life, and also not telling anybody about something so traumatic happening. It was like, I felt like my innocence was taken away. I felt like in that moment I grew up. Like in that moment I saw life, another aspect of life. And it made me sad because naturally, like I said, I was this happy-go-lucky, sociable, just curious child, and I was so fascinated by the wonders of the world, the little things. And mind you, around this time I was still in Nigeria, so I was always playing with my cousins, going to my grandma's house, all that. But after that happened, everything felt different. And as a kid, I still continue to do little kid things, like, you know, playing and stuff, but everything kind of had like another layer to it for me. Like I started thinking about the intent of things at such a young age, and I feel like that has done me a lot of good in life. Like I feel like growing up with that mindset, like, oh, I have to see what the intent of this is, like, why is this person doing this, are they trying to harm me? It has protected me in different situations. It has allowed me to stand up for myself, but it has made me really, really, really sad. And because I didn't tell anyone, and I just kind of went on with things and just went on with being a kid and exploring life, then another traumatic thing happens where I suddenly had to leave my home because my parents, I guess they achieved something that was really great. Like they were able to win a lottery that allowed us to move to the US, to Chicago, where I've been for like 16 years. And that was a beautiful thing in my family at the time. I was 7 at that time. And it was a really beautiful thing that happened, but I didn't quite understand what was going on. All I knew was everybody was happy. I got to pick a fancy ass dress. I still remember that dress. I was a bad little, I would look good in my dress. I picked like a choker dress. It was pink. It was really cute. And that was like the best part of it, was picking out the dress. Everything else felt like a nightmare. Because one day I was in Nigeria. I knew I was preparing for something, but it didn't really sit with me that I was gonna leave everything, you know. And then next thing I know, we're at the embassy, we're on a plane, and we're going to America. And on the plane, going on this plane, interesting, you know. I didn't quite register, like, okay, we're going somewhere. I always thought we were gonna go back home, you know. And on the plane, my dad had passed out while he took me to the bathroom, and that was very traumatic because I was in a foreign place. I didn't know anybody, and my dad is like dead. I thought he was dead, honestly. He was on the floor. It was white people, mind you, y'all. Nigeria, everybody is coming here. It was pools and pools of white skin. I was terrified. On the plane it was okay with some black people. I was like, okay, who are these people? They look weird. Like, why are they not dark? What's wrong with them? That's what I was thinking. And then I came to America, and we were downtown Chicago, and it was pools of white people. I was so anxious, y'all. It was the scariest day of my life. I was like, is the apocalypse? Is there somebody come and take me? Oh, we are in a foreign place. I was a 7-year-old African ass kid in downtown Chicago. Pools of cloud coloreds. Yeah, so that was very traumatizing. And in my family, when we talk about coming to America is always talked about as a really beautiful thing that happened, like a great opportunity, but I felt like I never had the space to talk about, like, for me it wasn't a beautiful thing. I was scared. I thought I was gonna go back to my cousins, my grandma, my grandpa's church, and I never got to go back until 4 years later. And by 4 years later, my grandpa had died, my great-grandmother had died, so it was just like another layer of sadness, another layer of grief, but no space to feel it. Once we got here, it was just go, go, go. I was in school. That was my main focus. My parents, they were working, trying to figure out, getting used to living in this new country. We lived in horrible situations. We lived with rodent infested places because that's what my parents could afford, you know, coming to a new country, getting adjusted, speaking. My parents could speak English, but you know, they had strong accents, so it was just a lot was consistently happening. And then when I was 9, you know, my great-grandmother, who was a big part of my life before coming to America, had passed away, and my grandfather had passed away, and I never really got to process it. And so much more happened after that, but that was kind of like the beginning of the sadness. And fast forward to 22, like, I feel like 2019, with the pandemic happening, it forced everybody to stop, even me. It forced me to look at the pain that I felt from all the different things that had happened to me in my childhood that I never had space to feel. I never had space. My parents are not the most, how do you feel? What's wrong? It's just like, why are you crying? Eh? You are sad. What's wrong with being sad? Let's pray. Or you are sad. What's wrong with being sad? Here, okay, let me go cook for you. Like, let me make you some jollof rice. It wasn't really a, do you want to talk about it? Like, what's wrong? I found myself crying a lot. As a child, I remember me crying a lot. As a teenager, I remember crying a lot. Going to my adulthood, I remember crying a lot, and I was just like, okay, I'm just a crybaby. Like, I just cry about everything. But now that I'm 22, I realize, like, it's not that I was a crybaby. It's just that my body, even if I wasn't mentally processing that I was sad, my body was still processing that I was sad. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, my mind was on life, but my body was on healing. And I felt like the pandemic allowed my mind and my body to kind of align themselves. Like, my body was telling me, like, we've gone too long without dealing with the pain that we feel. I've gone too long without recognizing where this pain that I was feeling, this sadness, came from. I tried to mend it through people. I've tried to mend it through things, through substances, through just different things, but the only thing that's allowed me to kind of understand that I was sad was asking for help. Telling somebody, like, look, I'm crying a lot and I'm feeling like shit every day. I've been feeling like shit for as long as I can remember, since I was 8, which is when I got here, since I was in this new country navigating and far away from what I was familiar with, and also dealing with this abuse that I hadn't told anyone about. And the moment that I asked for help, and I feel like the only reason I was able to ask for help was learning about all the resources that was available and seeing all the resources that became available from the from lockdown. Like, so many resources came up on social media. Different conversations were being had, and I even started like a group where we would meet on Zoom. It was like me and different people, that different mutuals. It was called Pandemic Sisters, and we would meet and talk about like how we're processing the pandemic. And I felt like a lot of things that kept coming up was, I just want things to go back to normal, or I just wanted to live my life, and I felt like this was the start of living my life. But I felt like God was trying to tell me, no, your life cannot start. The life that you're supposed to live cannot start if you don't face your pain. Your pain. Somebody's birthday. Happy birthday to me. Period. It's my birthday. Anyways, I felt like during like everything shutting down, God was like, you wanna live life, but how can you live life when you're carrying a boulder of sadness, when you're not facing the fact that you feel like shit? Like, all I'm asking you to do is acknowledge it. I think that for a long time I didn't want to acknowledge it. Like, it was comfortable to sit in that pain. It was comfortable to trauma bond with people. It was comfortable to make people feel bad for me. Like, oh, I'm experiencing domestic violence at home, sympathy, I'm sad, or oh, we don't have money, or oh, I can't do this because of that. And in some instances it worked, you know, like, you know, y'all have to, you know, write them essays for college. Sympathize with me, honey, pay that tuition. But when it comes to moving on as a person and growing, I think it was important for me to acknowledge that I was comfortable in my sadness. And the first step of getting uncomfortable, or I feel like getting uncomfortable has to do with healing. The first step for me was to ask for help. Asking for help is something that's difficult for me because my parents, they navigated through this country and growing up without really asking for help. They just like, let's try to do it ourselves. Let's try to keep our problems within our family. And I feel like that's good in some situations, but sometimes you need to ask for help. Sometimes you need therapy. Sometimes you need to go see a doctor. Sometimes you need to talk to your friend, like, what are you doing to make things work for you, you know? And if it's something that aligns, you know, it's something you can try. So I guess this video is just basically talking about the history of my sadness and how I'm basically still trying to figure it out. Like, I'm still sad, I still get sad, but now I know that when I'm sad, I have my therapist. And now I know that when I'm struggling, I can ask for help. Even with like being back in academia, the first time around when I was in college, I never asked for help. I never spoke to my professors. I was just trying to figure it out myself. I never went to my advisor meeting because I wanted to do it myself. I didn't want to bother anyone. But honestly, asking for help has been one of the most freeing things that I've done in my life. Every time I ask for help, even if the person I'm asking cannot help me, they still have something to offer me. They still have something to give me that helps. And I switched my mind from asking for sympathy is actually screaming for help. Like, instead of asking for people to sympathize with you or see how you're the victim, ask them how they can help you move on, move forward, how they can help you heal. I hope this video does something for you. If you're feeling sad, just know that it's okay to ask for help. Just know that there's somebody out there who understands and who wants to help you. You just have to take the first step with getting uncomfortable. Take the first step with healing and, yeah, asking for help. Asking for help is not comfortable, but it's better than being comfortable in sadness. It's better than feeling like shit every day and not showing up for yourself. And honestly, it takes time. So definitely give yourself grace, you know? Give yourself the grace that you need. Take your time. Take things one day at a time. But that is all, my friends. Don't forget, I want to see you next time. It's me, Mayowa Àdùkẹ.